Hello, everyone, and welcome to I think we're on the 9th of the Eldership Series, and really appreciate how many of you have come along so many times and been part of it. And today we especially welcome Simon Blow, who is it's going to be such a great joy, Simon, because you and I have talked a lot about what you've done, how you've been, what you've contributed, but it'll be great to share with everybody else. Your role as an elder in the Qi Gong community. So welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Kate and Claire, and thank you, SoulAdvisor, for organising this type of event. It's a really good honour and great honour, and excited to be here. So yeah, it's great. So we've known Kate and I've known each other for many years, go back nearly 30 years, back in the old days when we were all kind of working away, doing our modalities and teaching and stuff. So yeah, it's always good to cross paths with your with people who have been in the business for quite a long time. It's always good.
Thank you. And I'm loving your backdrop, Simon. So beautiful.
Okay, this is my lounge room, and there's also the backdrop for when we do our online classes too. Yeah.
Before we start, we always do an acknowledgement of country, and before I do that, I'd like to apologize to everybody that we're recording from the car. Down my way, Mother Nature's been ferocious. I don't know if you can see the trees behind me, but they've all got black bottoms, and there was huge amounts of fire down here. It was devastating. We lost 80 houses in the next village a few years ago, and then after that there was incredible rainfall, and consequently the road is it's terrifying. There's so many potholes down here. So they've just decided to fix them before Christmas, so I got held up for 3/4 of an hour trying to get back to my desk. So I do apologize for this environment, and I'd just like to encourage everybody to close their eyes for a minute and just be where they are. So in the context of the incredible, I guess, stress and strain that we're putting Mother Nature under at the moment, I'd like to give deep thanks to the fact that the rains keep falling, that the sun keeps shining, that the sea continues to lap against the shore, and that all of the plants and animals have regenerated down here and in other places where disaster has struck. And I would like to give deep thanks to all those elders who've walked on this land and all other lands in times gone by for their custodianship and care of this planet, and their understanding that deep relationship with all living things, and deep understanding that we too are a living thing, was and still is the way to go. And to honor the UN elders of this land, and to honor the elders of all the lands that you're on, and to honor my ancestors and all your ancestors who have been through all kinds of scenarios on this planet and brought us to where we are today. And on that note, I'd like to thank Simon for bringing forth this lineage and allowing so many Australians to experience what real Qi Gong is. Simon, thank you.
All right, thank you.
And this month for us at SoulAdvisor is all about gratitude, and I want to say that from a really heartfelt space, because I know a lot of people that you've taught Qi Gong to, and I know how much that has contributed to their lives, and I'm sure you know too. And it's been a really great gift that you've been able to devote these last few decades to bringing forth the knowledge into this culture. So I'd love to hear all about it. Where did you start?
Well, where did I start? Oh no. Well, we all have to start somewhere, and really, I've found from my own experience of working with a lot of people come into Qigong for a reason. It's not just something. Some people might pick up an advertisement in the paper or something, but for me, my healing journey really started when I was 19. I just turned 19, and I was involved in a very serious car accident, and it was actually Boxing Day 1979 on the Pacific Highway just north of Newcastle, and it was in the afternoon, and I was involved in a head-on collision. I'm not really sure what happened. There was no alcohol or drugs, anything involved. It's just one of those freak accidents which can happen. And unfortunately, I got really badly busted up and spent 3 months in hospital. In the hospital, 2 months in Newcastle, another hospital in Wollongong for another month after that. And so I got really badly busted up. So I nearly died the first week or so when I was in intensive care, but it wasn't my time, of course. So I really had to kind of take charge. So really at this time, I had that type of bit of a out of body experience, near death experience, where I became a bit more awake, I suppose, the best way to describe it. I was kind of, for the first 6 weeks or so, I just wasn't there. My friends and family and doctors were a bit worried because I just wasn't there anymore. So then after a while, I did kind of wake up. I came to a situation where I realized the situation I was in and I became awake. So like the lights came on and then I just really taken charge of myself. So since then, I've been doing everything I can, I suppose, just to maintain that awareness, that energy. And through that, was involved in the medical system for about 4 years, having corrective operations and such as physiotherapy and doctor's appointments for endless for about 4 years. Then eventually they kind of said to me, we can't do any more for you. So I was 23 and the professor of orthopedic surgeon I was seeing at the time said, that's it. Sorry, we can't do any more. If you're getting too much pain, just come back and see us and we can give you some drugs. I thought, I was a bit shocked, really. I was always hoping that I'll become like better or something, but I was okay. I could walk around things. I was always going to walk again because I had to learn to walk again on the parallel bars and things, but I was always going to walk again, but just that I had such bad injuries of fractures to both feet, both ankles and both legs, and all from my back and hip and bad head injuries, that I was going to walk again, but it's always depending what level of recovery you're going to have is really the thing. So really from my early 20s, I got involved in meditation and more regression work, just to go back to the situation what happened and to clear that energy about why me and all this had to happen to me, and to clear all that type of stuff, And that was kind of good, but my body was deteriorating still quite a bit. So I always felt a bit like a shell. I looked a bit okay on the outside, but a bit like a Michelin man. I couldn't walk very well. I was a bit, very unstable, and I had to be kind of very careful of doing everything. So it's really, I was seeing an osteopath regularly twice a week for quite a few years. And he suggested after a few years, I should probably try doing Tai Chi. I said, okay, that sounds very good. I said, well, what's Tai Chi? He said it's some type of Chinese martial art exercise. He said, you might find it interesting. So I went along and tried a class. And it's actually quite good because I was always involved in doing a lot of meditation, spiritual practice at the time. And I could find I could do things together. I could exercise, I could meditate, I could look at my spiritual development, energy development at the same time. So I was only about 26 at the time. And I looked at it and I thought, this is quite interesting. So I just joined the classes and continue on. So, and I could see really pretty much from the first class I went to, I kind of looked around the group in a hall in Paddington in Sydney. And I looked around and everyone's much older than me. I was really kind of the youngest there. And I liked the idea of it. And I can think about picture myself as being a teacher one day, kind of coming to me like the first time I was there. I thought, I could do this, I thought. So eventually I had that in the back of my mind. And it's really into about 4 years later when I became a teacher. I became through the gradings and became all the assessments and such and became a teacher. So that was so I've been doing it ever since then. So this is kind of 35 years now since I've been doing all this type of practice. So it just goes on and on, doesn't really stop.
It is an endless journey, isn't it? The healing journey for ourselves. And and 35 years, that's quite a long
35
time.
years. But I did about four years before that of doing meditation practice. So, so I've been involved in meditation stuff for about 40 years now involved. So, once you start, you don't really stop. It just becomes a part of you, how you look at things and do. So it's not so much you need to sit and meditate every day for an hour. It's just how you live and how you evolve yourself. It's just like the lifestyle, So like we talk about mindfulness these days, is a new term they use a lot, but it's really just being mindful all the time. This is really the practice of a Qi Gong, really. It's all this type of thing. It's just being in the present, being aware of what's going on around you. Sometimes you have to tune out on some things just to be more in your energy, It's how it works.
That's an incredible journey, and yes, I think by the time you've done 35, 40 years of this, you're living it day in, day out. It becomes you and you become it. And so rather than having necessarily to open your mouth and talk about what it is, you become that. And so when people are with you, perhaps they feel that, and it creates a field around your interaction with people. So I think, you know, we're all the time in this series trying to define, explore what eldership actually is. And yes, it's a matter of learning well and having good lineage, but it's also a matter of time, isn't it? So 35
that's right.
is a long time. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. You know, but it's like when I meet other colleagues and things when I'll be at conferences in China and training and such like that. You know, when we meet people of a similar age, we all have a similar story in a way. You know, people come into a different angle, but something similar. They've all kind of, you know, if I'm in my 60s now, I should have over 30 years of experience. You know, like if you meet any professional, they should have really had the years of training, you know, and this is how it goes about, you know. I was always thinking, oh, I'll have to do it for 10 years and see how it works. And I got to 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. So it really becomes a part of you, you know, like sometimes I think, well, you know, will we ever retire, like in the old sense of retiring? But you don't really retire. You just kind of do still work with things, you know.
You find different ways to express it. And I know that you've written a good number of books. Are you 7 books? Have I got that correct?
Yeah, 7 books. Yeah, 7 books now. Yeah.
Oh.
Trying to work on my 8th one. It's been a bit slow, this 8th one coming out. I'm just finding hard to get the right time to be kind of get it done. But it'll come about. It'll come about, I think, you know. There's more work to be done there, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's so much to ask you about. Like, that's an incredible kind of journey to go through, isn't it? Nearly dying and then going through that whole slow recovery and feeling what amount you can be helped by the system or external forces, and then finally coming to that conclusion, right, this has to happen from my own strong efforts in some direction. It's a story that I think, not that version but many other versions that I've heard from other people when they've come into the healing professions. And in some ways it feels like that kind of a beginning just really, really marries you to the modality that you've chosen to bring about your healing, and means that you're able to talk so much in a much more embodied way about what you do. So what's your driving force? Why do you feel to share?
Well, it's kind of it's nothing really that's kind of driving me. It's just a part of who I am, I think, you know. I'm quite aware of myself as a being and my destiny and my purpose. It's all been very clear to me from my mid-20s. So I haven't been searching for anything really. I've just been, I know I'm on the right bus and I'm going the right direction. It's just a matter of living it and letting it work. So all that I've been progressing, I've actually like making a lot of videos and DVDs and books and trainings and such. It's just been a part of the journey to get me to a state where I can share the message. It's like sharing the message to everyone about becoming more awake and be alive within this world. Because the world we live in is very beautiful. But sometimes we forget it's beautiful and we get stuck with our own goals and achievements. We want to kind of achieve things, you know. And this is all coming through the mainstream media and world, you know. So really it's funny because over the years I've done a little bit of corporate work, but I've never really gelled to it or wanted to do it, because the idea, the message you give people instead of how to make more money was really to drop out and to become more like a monk. So I never really kind of worked for me doing the corporate. I did quite a few over the years, but it wasn't what I wanted to do, you know. I wanted to get to work with people who were in rehabilitation programs or people in hospitals with serious illness, or people who've got to that bridge themselves and they're just needing someone else to help them to make their own journey. So in a way, I'm just kind of assisting people to get where they want to go by showing a few skills, but we all have the skill. It's nothing that complicated or deep. It's just a matter of becoming present and allowing the process to come about, you know.
Using such our God-given tools, our birthright, our body, our breath, you know, a simple matter of focus. Although it is our birthright, you know, knowing how to use that birthright and being guided along the path is so important, isn't it? And you've had, it sounds like, a number of really amazing teachers along your path, and now you are one. What was your Who was your very first teacher when you walked into that classroom? That
One of my teachers, her name was Ursula. She was a Tai Chi teacher, also a yoga teacher. She's we've kind of still in contact a little bit, you know. So yeah. So really, it's just, but really from the start, all my teachers really said to me that you're the teacher, you know. They point to you that you're the one. You know, we have that ability in ourselves. So I found all the time, no one's really told me what to do, which is good. I don't like it anyway. So it is showing you a bit of the path, a way to get there, you know. So
giving you an
so
example of how they got there, I guess, which is
yeah,
their.
I've got a few teachers and a few guides of people assisting me to get to the, you know, to allow your energy to come to higher state. So you receive, like a lot of ways, you receive different attunements, or you receive blessings, or, you know, like connecting to different lineage type energy to make your energy a bit higher, a bit lighter. So then you actually be able to receive more in a way, so you can give more. So the secret is you have to give more to get more. So all the people are trying to hold it and secrets and this type of stuff, in a way, doesn't really happen. You have to kind of give more.
I find that a deeply disturbing trend in the healing professions, because, you know, most of us come from lineages, and there's been points, for example, in the yoga history where teachers have tried to copyright moves and copyright breath practices and copyright all kinds of things. And really, like, it's a very odd concept, isn't it, to think that.
Yeah. Now I've seen it in a lot of modalities, that type of thing. Yeah, you know, we copyright our own work, of course, but then it's kind of like a universal law understanding. So really, anyone can share it, you know. So that's really why I kind of wrote books in a way. The books were just really documenting my journey and documenting the trainings that I've received, and then to share it with other people, so then they can ensure they, you know, give them more benefits to it. So it gives more power to the practice in a way. You know?
And gives them something to refer to when, rather than you, otherwise you'd be getting a lot of phone calls.
I think, a lot of these styles and forms are kind of, they are excuse me, quite structured, but within the structure there's a bit of spontaneity, a little bit, if you want to say, you know, there's a bit of creative expression, a little bit. That's why in a way there's a lot of variations to different things, but really the core practice should be quite similar, you know. So in a way, I've never invented my own type of practice. In a way, I have my own style of teaching and how I present things, of course, as we all, or should we, individuals. But the practice have been taught to me by authorized masters in China and such like this, and give me the authority to teach that style. So I always keep it true to that lineage as much as I can. And that's why we documented it early at the stage. So it's kind of written down, also diagrams, and to prescribe. And also in the books, we have the authority given by those teachers as such to that this is correct and accurate, and to follow that type of thing. You know?
The evolution of a discipline, or the evolution of a body of knowledge, because, you know, things keep changing in the world, and certain aspects of a knowledge system come into use, into vogue, into their position, don't they? And then other ones take a little back route for a minute.
That's correct. You know, like you don't have to rewrite the classics. You know, you're not rewriting Shakespeare or something like that. You know, it's just, you know, it is what it is, and it's got all the information in, like the classic books that have been passed down from the ancient times. You know, we have our own interpretation of it, of course, but, you know, we have to apply it into the modern world somehow. But really, in a way, we're trying to, from a lot of these ancient classics, to go back to the way it was, and when it was a bit more undeveloped as it is now. So now sometimes technology's changed things a little bit. We've got too many options and too many ideas, and puts sometimes people back in their head a bit too much. They lose that connection to their body. So then that mind-body connection is being lost a little bit. So in a way, when we go back to the ancient times, when people were more in harmony with things, they lived in nature, they ate with the seasons, they did the right exercise, they did everything correctly to live in harmony. They were just kind of more worried about living in the wild world. But now there's too many options. It's too easy, you see. So, because in a way, our body and even our mind hasn't changed that much really over the last few thousand years. It's pretty much the same. But our intellect has changed a lot through technology and lots of other things. And this actually takes us away from that path in a way. So all these natural practices, yoga, Qi Gong, it's a way of bringing it back to that nature in a way. So we get back to that connection. So we can really look at the trees, really look at the sky, look at the water, and really be in that energy with that. Because otherwise we lose it. It becomes like an image on a screen. And not really, it's all, people think it's pixelating, because that's the image on the screen. It's not the energy of the true thing. So really we just need to like go on holidays to be in nature.
A lot.
A lot. To live in nature, or if you don't live in nature, you should be connected with it. You know, that's why a lot of people now in the world living in more communal places than big cities. And so, you know, some of my Taoist
sisters in China were telling me they're worried about in China about how many people are living in high-rise buildings, because they're not walking on the ground.
As SoulAdvisor, as you know, we represent 120 different modalities, and we always are trying to make the story and help people understand which modalities are which and how deep they go and where they came from and where they're headed. I'd love to understand a little bit from you about the difference between Tai Chi and Qi Gong. Are you a practitioner of both or one?
Well, it depends, you see, because in a way they're talking about the same thing, really talking about the same thing. Because the word Tai Chi, or actually Tai Chi in Chinese, means the yin and yang symbol. That's what Tai Chi means. It represents the yin and yang symbol. So it means coming to balance. So the symbol's got quite a bit deep meaning, you know. Left and right, male and female, up and down. It's got a kind of goes quite deep. So really, the word Tai Chi means yin and yang. So this is a word they've been using a bit more since the 1970s to describe these type of things. So it's like we say the wave of Chinese healing exercise and such that came out from China from the early stages, but then it became more popular, say, from the 50s, 60s, 70s on. The first wave is coming through more from acupuncture kind of quite treatment. So people understanding that meridian channels, having points to connect with such like that. Then the next wave is more like Chinese massage and such like that. And through that wave was getting understanding people calling it Tai Chi, doing the exercise type of thing. But so Tai Chi begins coming the yin and yang to balance. But the exercise is called Tai Chi Chuan. The word Chuan means fist, or it means boxing. Okay, so it means interaction of yin and yang create the fist or create the boxing. So this is the first like wave of popularizing Chinese health exercise that came out from China to the Western countries, and it's really kind of, in a way, we're not really, people didn't know about this, but 1936 Olympics in Beijing, the one of the demonstration sports was Tai Chi.
Wow.
And the Chinese, from the Chinese history, from when they overthrown the emperors back in 1917, when the new Republic of China was being established, they trained up a lot of masters to show their exercise to the world. So in 1936, they demonstrated a sport called Tai Chi. But really people forgot about it, you know, because of the war and the whole thing like that. So during that time, they developed their own exercises or special Tai Chi forms, which were sanctioned a bit by the government, which they developed to popularize. Because in the Tai Chi world, there's thousands of different types. There's really basically about 5 different family styles of Tai Chi, which means the martial arts styles.
Okay.
So during the Second World War, it was all kind of put away. Then they had the Civil War in China, and then the new Communist Party took over. All these things were kind of put on the back burner. So then when the new things came out from the 50s, 70s, and after Cultural Revolution, they started to promote Tai Chi as a world thing, because it was their aim was to promote these exercises to the world. So then they had different styles. So that was the first wave coming out for people learning. That's when I came into this in the mid-80s to learn these exercises. So it was Tai Chi, we call it. It's called Tai Chi Chuan. So interaction of yin and yang, the philosophy of yin and yang create the exercise or the movements. And it's really based on the martial arts styles. But in a way, these are the later development of the exercises. The early exercises going back 4,000 and 5,000 years ago were more the medical or the health exercises. From archaeological digs, which I've discovered only in the last 20 years, they've unearthed silk scrolls, which have been carbon dated to over 2,000 years, is showing exercises for the different organs of the body. And they have bamboo strips or hooks showing what each exercise does and how it could work on the basic theory of Chinese medicine, how it works for different organs and health conditions. So it's been a long history. So that was what one emperor really liked that, and he got buried with that. You know, it wasn't different marquee from different kingdoms in the stage. So there's lots of archaeological digs that have been developed over been discovered over the years, with showing this type of history. And then, so the idea of, well, the whole practice has been involved through, everyone's been involved through the understanding of this development. So there really are thousands of different types. There are medical healing forms, there are spiritual meditation styles, there are martial arts styles. But the first ones were the health ones. Then there was the spiritual ones, and the martial art ones came along later. So in history, the Tai Chi, or the Tai Chi Chuan forms, were the last development of this, which really have a history about 400 to 600 years ago. It's a bit controversial who developed it. Not so much someone invented it, it's really the development of it. You know? From, if you look, some say it was developed by the Chen family, but someone saying no, it came from the Wudang Mountain, the Taoists developed it. You know? So different ideas of thought where it comes from. One's a bit of legend, some historical, but I've done a lot of my training at Wudang Mountain where they say also developed that, where the masters, the Taoist masters, got the history there. They were written in the monastery, how it goes back, you know. So really, Tai Chi and Qi Gong is the same thing in a way, but it's really looking at a martial style, a medical form, or like a spiritual form. So some forms encompass a bit of everything. Now there's more modern styles of Tai Chi that's coming out. These ones are more been developed probably over the last 15, 20, 30 years. Even modern forms of medical Qigong being developed too. So it's really just seizing on the opportunity to develop things and to promote it so people get the benefit from it.
Beautiful.
So it's like, so the word Qigong, word means, Qi means energy, life force, like in prana, the same thing, or Qi in Japan, it's the same thing, it's energy, life force. All cultures have this idea of energy of life, which creates things. So it's like the energy, the Godhead that comes through. It's that black mass matter that is in the universe, which comes from creation in a way. So it moves through everything with Qi. The word Gong means training, mastery, applying yourself to do something, Gong. So without the Gong, nothing seems to happen. You have to master the Qi, apply the Qi to work for you. So the word Qigong has only been used since the 1950s, okay? So historically, New China, when it was developed in 1949, then came in the 50s, they were trying to classify things. So just for the classification, to put all the Chinese exercises, martial, medical, spiritual into one category. They call it Qigong, energy work, energy training. So we have martial art forms, we have medical, spiritual forms, we have healing forms. Some crisscross across a bit, have similar type of benefits. So when I first started, I was studying Tai Chi Chuan. It was really a modified, more westernized style. And I did that for probably 10 years. And I was becoming a instructor in that. It was quite successful. I learned my craft, but I was never happy with it because not really when I went to I think it was my second trip to China. I found out what people in China were doing was different to what I was doing. We saw a lot of demonstrations, we saw what was going on. Their style was quite different. And from my own observation of research from books and looking at videos and such in those days, I wanted to learn more, go to the source of real thing. So after that first trip away with another group, I decided I was going to change because I wanted to learn more what was done in China, not what was done in the Western countries. So I studied I was actually invited by a master in Chinatown to become his first student. Wow. So I did 5 years in Chinatown, I'm assistant of Master Ho, and I was his first student. So I helped teach all the students, and he taught me traditional Yang style Tai Chi Chuan, where his lineage went back to his grandfather, who was one of the disciples of the Yang family. And he was very proud of the tradition of it. He taught me the Chinese massage that went with it, the whole thing. So it was good. I really enjoyed it. It was a really good opportunity to be in Chinatown in that type of environment. Went to many chars and banquets and get demonstrations with all the Chinese community all the time. And, you know, there's only a few of us Westerns doing it. There were mainly the Chinese community, and it was great. So, but I left that. I'm still friends with Master Ho, but he was too martial for me. Everything came back to the martial arts. This is what Tai Chi is. So you come back to the martial arts. There's an opponent. There's an opponent there, and you have to kind of find the way of winning the opponent over. Even though we say, oh, it should be balanced, there's always sometimes someone has to win. So in a way, the medical forms and the martial forms are similar because you're just trying to do it for yourself. So you become like a king or a queen, that your energy or strong for health, for martial purposes. I was always coming from that point where I had that out-of-body experience when I nearly died, and I was trying to seek the peace, the nothingness, when I wasn't there. So I had a long period of time, maybe 4 or 5 weeks, where I can't really remember much more. I wasn't lucid. They said I wasn't unconscious. I was kind of there, but wasn't there. But I was kind of aware of not being there. You know? So I always wanted to discover where I was when I wasn't there. So just to go to the practice. So I really had to leave the martial arts, the Tai Chi behind, because I thought it was stopping my development a bit. I remember I went to a big conference in 1998 in Beijing, where my teacher then was Jack Lin. He was a quite well-known Qi Gong Grandmaster, and he was on the executive committee of a World Medical Qi Gong Association in Beijing, with the Beijing University, Chinese medicine. So he couldn't go, but he just gave me a crumpled up bit of paper and said, I think you should go. I went up and said, oh yeah, okay, I'll give it a go. So I think I sent an email. I might have just started using emails then and worked it out. I finally ended up going to Beijing on my own. Didn't know anyone at all, just arrived and got picked up at the airport, taken there. It was actually a great case. So I didn't know anyone there. It was a really good opportunity to meet people. So I really kind of hang out with a friend of mine. I met a friend from America. I got to know a guy from America who got quite well. We spent quite a bit of time together, and he was quite a very high level Qigong professor in a way, you know. So he kind of took me under his wing a little bit, but we really were quite equal, just sharing stories, had a good time. So, but he told me this story about how you develop yourself in the Chinese healing arts in a way. And it really stuck with me. And I tell this story a lot to people, you know. It's like when we first start, we're quite younger, we start more with the martial arts, because you want to learn training and discipline and focus and concentration, all these type of things. It's really good for young people to learn that discipline and, you know, to get on with things. So it's quite good. So when you start the martial arts, so from the martial arts, then you become, from the warrior, you become the scholar. From the warrior, you start to question yourself. You might have been in a few battles, you're worrying about what's going on. You become the scholar. You start to study the classics of medicine, philosophy, spirituality. So then you go study so heal your body from the injuries you've had. You know, you start the philosophy of why the energy that you've been creating or not creating. Then from the scholar, you become the healer. You start to heal yourself and start to heal other people. Maybe rewrite some of the karma you may have created from being a warrior, such like this. Then from the scholar, then from the warrior, then you become the healer. The last stage, you become the sage. Then there's no one to compete with. Through the martial, the scholar, and the healer, you are competing with someone, trying to gain knowledge to get stage. But really the highest level is become the sage. When there's no one to be in competition with, then you can just purely just share your energy with everyone. So we all become back to one, back to nothing, in a way we say. So that really stuck with me, and I thought, oh, that's kind of what I always had in my own mind, what I was trying to do. I even come to some of the Tai Chi. I did a bit of martial art, but not a lot. I did enough to know that I didn't want to do anymore. I was never a fighter. I never was more a lover, we should say. So anyway, so that really stuck with me. My friend Jerry told me that, and that was quite great. So I've always kind of, from that first conference I went to in Beijing, I met lots of people. It was really fantastic. And a lot of the world of the Chinese healing arts opened to me. Because here in Australia at the time, in the 80s and 90s, there's only a certain place you can learn. It's all martial arts style. I was more interested in the medical, healing, spiritual. I wanted to sit in the monastery. I wanted to teach from the cushion so people can get that connection. So that's why from the conference, I met people. I got more confidence about things. Then that was 98. Then 99, I started to take groups. So I organized a group in 99, the first one. Then every year up to 999 to 2019, before September 19, before the pandemic, we had groups every year. So we took 20 years to 30 groups over that time. And through those connections I made, so I had to kind of work with people. So we connected with monasteries, Taoist monasteries, some Buddhist monasteries, hospitals, universities, and also lineage holders. So we went right to the source to connect, because there's thousands of different types. Because again, the Qigong, the Tai Chi training in my early stage was a good development to understand how things work and understand, and then to go a bit further.
That's a lot of doing, isn't it? And a lot of time in China. Do you have language skills? Can you speak Chinese?
Not much. I can speak a few languages, a few terms, a few phrases, but no. I was lucky enough. Jacqueline, my teacher, he used to take groups, and then I never went on a group with him, but he kind of retired from it in the late 90s, and he handed it over to me. What he handed to me was the tour guide.
Okay.
He handed the tour guide to me, and a rough itinerary for the first trip I went on. And so then I worked with that tour guide, and in Beijing, his name is Jin, and we worked together. We became very good friends. I was actually just spoken to him on the phone this morning. He's now in Melbourne. So became good friends, become Taoist brothers with the same teacher. So we've got a very strong bond and connection together. We're committed to be helping each other for the rest of our life, you know. So he was always my mouthpiece. I'd introduce to the right people. It talked on my behalf a bit. We'd discuss what we're going to talk about, and be my translator away. So in a way, I did try learning Mandarin a few times. I did some adult education courses a few times, and I could learn a few phrases and a few words and understand how to pronounce the pinyin correctly, type thing. And that was very useful. But I found from going to a lot of conferences in Beijing and Shanghai, it's better in a way, instead of trying to embarrass myself by having a long conversation in Chinese, I could say the right couple of phrases and greetings and such. If there's something important I want to say, I'd have someone say it for me in a way, you know. This is really good to show a bit more respect, and they respect you that you've got someone to do that for you, you know? Yeah. So, you know, like even at conferences when I was at Beijing and Shanghai, I went to 10 conferences in Beijing and 2 conferences in Shanghai. They were all promoted by the Beijing University and the Shanghai University of Chinese Medicine. You always have translators for you who are quite often PhD students, and they'll give perfect translation for what you want to do, conversation with people. So in a way, I've probably become a scholar. I think if I lived in China and married a Chinese or something like that, it would become Chinese. But I never want to become Chinese. I want to be myself. So the culture, it's in the ways you have to learn a bit of both culture. I'm still me, Australian, whatever, Anglo-Saxon Australian, 180 years in this country, this family. But I've been to China a lot to understand that culture. So I can translate a bit between the cultures a little bit. So I've been given the culture ambassador for a few monasteries and universities in China, because I expect that you understand a bit of both. And I'm not trying to become Chinese by wearing Chinese clothes or being yellow face, as some people say, you know. So it's really important to be, you know, to be yourself, be who you are, you know.
Fascinating, really fascinating. That whole concept of respect, that is so important in a lineage, you know, like self-respect as well as respecting the elders that are providing the information, respecting and listening. It's part of the whole thing.
Oh, absolutely. Because in a way, you know, like from a Taoist perspective, we're all one. This world, we're all just one world. So it's like the state of, let's say, the basic philosophy to say the universe, the state of Wu Qi. It's called Wu Qi, means a state of nothingness, the state of the universe before something happened, like heaven state. Sometimes they call it, before heaven state. It's called. Then from the heaven state, something happened, the movement or something occurred. We don't know if it's a big bang or something happened. We don't really know. That's what they're always trying to find out. Of course, they'll find out for forever. Never really know. From the Wu Qi state, become the Tai Chi state. The Tai Chi state means the yin and yang. So the circle become that yin and yang sequence, and things become forming. This is when life forms. It's like breaking up of a cell. When that cell first breaks open from nothing to 2, goes to 3, and then from 3 goes the whole universe is created, they say. So this is what we're trying to get back to, is the prenatal state, before heaven state. It's when we're in this state in meditation or practice, being in the now, in a way, then everything comes back to formation, comes back to all body will completely realign. So in a way, it's like the path to immortality of us being or spirit. But it's really, in the Taoist sense, we say the pathways through the body. Where a lot of other traditions might disregard the body, so you're not the body, you're not the mind, but in a way the Tao say you are the body. This is from this world, so you have to connect through this world. So in a way, it's quite holistic, that approach.
It's beautiful, and it's such it gives the person who's pursuing that body of knowledge or that way of approaching, it gives a lifelong path, doesn't it? Because there's so much involved in the simplicity of the statement that you've just made. And it's an embodied experience, you know, to come into that understanding. You can read, you can do the philosophy, you can be the scholar, but it actually involves the practice of
That's right.
that state.
The
And I
form
love
of practice becomes part of it. Yeah.
you said something really interesting. You said that during that time when you weren't really here, that's what you've always been seeking to re-achieve or explore, I guess.
Yeah.
Is that what you said? So did you actually, how do you describe that state now?
Well, even at the time, I remember talking to my family and some of my close friends after, you know, after I kind of came to a little bit, whatever, you know, I really had no pain, you know, even though I had really bad injuries all over, you know. I think I was medicated for the first week in intensive care, and after that, I remember taking pills, but then later my family started by just taking antibiotics, you know. There was no pain relief after that. So really, I never really experienced any pain as such. All I remember is being in a state of warm peace all the time. I felt I a bit uncomfortable someone lying in bed, but really I was in that warm, peaceful state all the time. And that is really because in that peace, really you're in the present. Because when you're in a situation where you actually can't do anything, you can't move or anything, the only place to go out is to go in. So it forces you to change. And I've heard this story from many people I've run across over the years. Something like a broken arm has changed their life because they have to just readjust themselves. They can't do what they did before. So something where I couldn't move, I couldn't do anything. And even when I was, after 3 months, I could get a hospital. I was really shaky walking around, but really I just readjust everything. Or like friendships, everything had to rechange. And I just kind of, I was different, of course, because I had a different approach. So because within the peace is the present. Because you're not in peace, you're not in the present moment. This is the key, in a way. So the practice of bringing to present.
How do we remain present? You know, we were talking about
present. Yeah, exactly. You know, it's easy to turn out with technology. You look into a screen or whatever that, and you just go off. You know, you're going to some fantasy world. I don't know. I grew up in an era where I was living in the country and things. We didn't have video games or McDonald's or anything like that before that type of thing. So I never played video games or got involved in that type at all. So it's not really that fantasy worries me. Even some fantasy movies, sci-fi movies, just leaves me a bit shallow sometimes, you know. I like more natural things, you know. I know. Even just like where I'm living now, I look out the window and I've got beautiful big trees, and I can just sit here half a day and look at the trees. Just be in that energy, you know? So it just connects. And this is the beauty of the practice in a way. And from the healing's perspective and from a spiritual perspective, this is the starting point where we can move on.
Beautiful. I think, you know, what you've just paraphrased from your perspective is what we as SoulAdvisor, what we and in all the other things that we're doing, where we're really kind of trying to bring the country into the central point of healing, meaning country in this nation, to the First Nations, refers to the sky, the plants, the trees, the earth, the water, the et cetera, and how do we actually come back to understanding that our relationship to country and the way we be with country, and therefore ourselves as part of country, is actually the center point of the healing equation. So you've just talked about that beautifully from your angle. And
well, that's an understanding of the Tao. The Tao is universal. It doesn't really matter. You know, it may have kind of populated from China and come out for everywhere else, but really this world is here. It doesn't matter which part of this world we live on. We're a part of this world, you know. And I think this is more the message that we're all one in a way. You know, we may have different skin colors because our ancestors were living in darker, hotter climates. We may have different, you know, everything, but underneath the skin, it's exactly the same. The language may have developed differently, but underneath the skin, it's exactly the same. One of my Buddhist teachers years ago used to say, he said, if we go up the bum, he said, we're all the same.
Beautifully.
If you look at anatomy of a body, I think some body structure is a bit different. They say there's the African, the Asian, and the Caucasian body structure. But it's very slight. It's like this only because of the environmental thing. But overall, their genetics are the same.
Yes.
You know? And we have to kind of think of this, we're all just one. So we all have the same emotions. We all have grief, we suffering, sadness, we feel love, we feel all these type of things, and all the cultures of the world in their own country develop their own little natural practices. And for, so that's actually what the way we have to go back to. Part of it. You still have to live in the world, the technology, and so of course you have to live that way. So that's why we're talking more about environmental things these days, because we worry about the planet. If we don't have the planet, we won't have us there, We all become a bit more awake, more alive,
Yeah. And in this country, because of the devaluation of our First Nations people, there hasn't been much of an ear to listen to how it's been done around here, what's been done in China.
Yeah.
Kind of disciplines you're describing, what's been done through Ayurvedic understanding and meditation and yoga through India, etc., etc. Many of us have gone outside this country to gather information or gather lineage, and then helped, I hope, to bring it to a lot of other people, that same universal essence. So
That's right.
it's a beautiful moment that we're in, where we're starting to discover what's been done around in this country and how that relationship might be expressed through cultural mechanisms in this country as well. And I'm sure the same is true in Canada. We've got Marie there, who's over in the middle of the night in Canada. And I know that there's a big First Nations renaissance of understanding over your way too. We've been talking, you and I, Simon. Is there anyone else who would like to chime in, ask a question, make a suggestion? You've floored them, Simon.
Anyway, but sometimes I talk about some of the practices that I teach, because there are thousands of different practices in a way, we say, and some are similar, some are different. Everyone's got their own little bit of a make on the same thing. And I've been teaching, I think it's 11 now styles that I teach, 11 forms in a way, when I call it. So some are medical forms and some are called more spiritual application of the practice. So one of the main practices I've been doing over the last 10 or 12 years now is we call the Wild Goose, or the Dayan, we call it in China. Now, Dayan translates to great bird, and it's one of the classic and historical forms. And it really represents the movements of a geese, the wild geese. Because the geese out there, in a lot of traditions, is a symbol of longevity, peace, fertility, of taking people to the next world in a way. The geese all around the world, they all fly north, south, all around the world, bringing messages and things. So all the cultures had an idea about the geese, talk about stories, So, and we're lucky enough, we met it was destiny, of course, to meet the Grand Master way back in 2007, and we've done a close association over the last 12 or 15 years now with him, and to authorize me to teach and also to write books about it, to give people the authority to kind of share and to learn this practice, because it's a very beautiful but quite a challenging type of practice. There's a lot of kind of movements involved, a lot of kind of things. So I teach this one generally in a 4 or 5 day intensive program, mainly like a retreat setting. This is how it was taught to me in China. It's very hard to go a weekly class on Tuesday night at 6:30 for an hour to learn this. It's because most time you try to get people into that state. So really in that intensive situation, we do a lot of movement and a lot of meditation. So there's yang and yin components to it. So we'll do like an hour of movements, and we'll do like 20 minutes of sitting static practice to get the qi to dissolve within our body. And this is kind of one of the main practices I've been doing these days. And it's a beautiful sentence. The healing benefits are very powerful, of course, because the geese take you back to the prenatal state. It's not on that flight. So all the philosophy kind of, in a way, the philosophy comes from the movement. We're talking about before people read books and things. The philosophy is only in the book. You have to burn the book to get the knowledge in a way. So that you become that book, that philosophy. So by doing the practice. So in a way, it sounds quite esoteric, these type of practices, which they are in a way, but once you start doing it and understand the energy and feel the energy and let that feeling go to get to a deeper state, the practice become more part of you. Then it becomes quite natural. Because I know I meet Qigong people a lot. Now on the internet, we're kind of connecting a little bit more with people around the world. And we all have, once you get involved with Qigong or Tai Chi, if you want to call it, whatever one, you kind of get it. But you need to stick with it a little while, then you get the energy. Then you're with the energy, then it becomes a part of you. So the geese takes it to that place and maintains the energy of the place. So it's beautiful.
Oh, it's such a beautiful image to think of a goose flying.
Yeah. No, because the practice was based, they call them the bar-headed geese. The bar-headed geese migrates from India to Tibet, and it flies over the Himalayas. Flies at 60,000 feet in the air, flies over the Himalayas back and forth each year. So they're one of these super birds, they don't freeze up or special air tanks or something. They migrate. So, this is kind of where the legend came from, where the practice originated from hermit masters living in nature, observing the geese, landing at the exact same time every year, giving birth to their young and nurturing their young, and then flying up again. And they thought there was something going on. So this is the early practices were from shamanic days of people observing nature. They call the culture the same thing, or just mimicking a bit the animal movements to become the properties. So you don't become the animal, you embrace the properties of it. So, and I love this type of thing. Love this type of one we do. And I've just finished last few weeks ago. I had 2 steps retreats for 2 8-day ones, like in a row. I had about a month off in between ones. So next year we've got quite a few on retreats like this next year. Also, we go to a place called Norfolk Island. I take a group over there. All the geese, we fly over to Norfolk Island, and we stay there for 1 week or 2 weeks to do the training there. So there's lots of different things coming up next year to do more Wild Goose. I'm trying to open up a bit. We get more freedom to travel, hopefully, and that we can go back. Because I'm not thinking of going back to China for a while. I spoke with my business partner, Dallas brother Jing, this morning on the phone, and we're thinking maybe not for about 2 years before we're going to think about going back in. Because it's just no travel at the moment. It's just a bit complicated. So we're going to wait until it's really comfortable. And then we'll be happy to go again and take some people there to reestablish our training. Because before that, we stopped. We were actually doing a lot more work with my Taoist teacher, who's the abbess of a monastery in a place called Wuhan. Now, everyone's heard of Wuhan now, because of course of the pandemic, but people hadn't heard about it much before. I've been going to Wuhan for over 20 years regularly, and a lot of my main teachers are there, my Wild Goose teacher and my Taoist teacher there. And my Taoist teacher, her name is Cheng Zhen, and she's the abbess of called the Eternal Spring Monastery of Wuhan. And it's a big monastery. And Wuhan's a big city. It's about 12 million people. Now, it's a very auspicious place, Wuhan, because it's built on the Yangtze River, the major junction of 2 major rivers. So the feng shui is perfect. The mountains around it, the feng shui is perfect for the energy there. And the monastery there, it dates back to ancient times. The structure of the building is built in the Ming dynasty, it was about 800 years ago. But prior to that, there was different structures there. And it was really built there at the best feng shui spot in the whole area. So now there's a big city around. You go there, and there's all the buildings all around it. So it goes back, 4,000 or 5,000 years when there were people were doing some type of, sacred geometry type there at that spot. And so my teacher's the abbess. She's the first female in history to come to that highest level, to become the abbess of a monastery of the whole province.
Wow.
Wuhan's the capital of Hubei province, which is a province of about 70 million people. Okay, and Hubei province is in central China. China's in the center part. It's on the Yangtze River. Now, it's very ancient for Taoist philosophy, because in that area there's the Three Gorges Dam, there's Wudang Mountains, very famous, all these type of things. It's really the cradle of Taoist culture, and also say Chinese culture, because that's where they found Peking man way back then from ancient times. So that province, it's about 60% of people identify in the latest census as being Taoist. Okay, so my teacher Cheng Zhen, she's in charge of all the monasteries and temples in the whole province, which is about, we estimate about 30 million people that she's kind of actively looking after temples and monasteries, things like that. So this is like more than population of Australia, New Zealand, and in a lot of places. You know?
How
So-
old is she? What's her age?
She's about my age. She's about my age. She's early 60s. She's my age, but she kind of grew into it from a family. So her family's kind of into it. So she's been there. So I've been with her since 2006. I've been kind of initiated with her. So we go back to visit her and have trainings with her. But not quite often. What we're doing the last few trips there, we're doing a translation of a Taoist sutra. We call it the Xing Jing Jing. They call it in Chinese. We translate to the Tranquility Sutra. It's like in the Buddhism, they have the Heart Sutra, it's like the foundation. This is the foundation for the Taoist practice. This is what the monks, the masters, and male and female would chant in the monastery in the morning and afternoon. It's like a check-in thing, and it's based on what Lao Tzu used to teach his students. This sutra. So it's a way. It's based on the Tao Te Ching, because the Tao Te Ching was kind of coming from ancient times. So it's a way of reciting what the yin and yang and becoming more. So we achieve permanent peace, inner peace permanently. So we did a translation of it over the last few years going back, and we're just getting to the stage where we're going to get the final approval to write up, because she wanted me to do an English translation for the monastery, and then we had the connection with other monasteries in China. I was going to produce a little book of the English translation with a few different practices in, of course, which will be involved in some Taoist monasteries in China, because Cheng Zhen's on the level of all the masters of the provinces in China. So she was on the advisory board to the Chinese government. A lot of people think it was, because it's funny in China, some things are tolerated, some things are not. In China, not being political, but the Chinese don't like outside influence. So in a way, they don't like Buddhism too much, Christianity, because it's foreign. They like Qigong, and they like Taoism because it's Chinese, it's their culture. So in a way, they will promote it in a way, you know?
Yes.
It's funny, I did a Qigong conference about 10 years ago when the new premier came in power, Xing Jing Jing. And the talk at the time was, it's good for Qigong, because Premier Xi likes Qigong. He likes Chinese culture. So prior to that, the premiers didn't like it. And Qigong and this type of thing was suppressed. It was tolerated, but was suppressed, was put down. So then it was, you know, so when it came in, everyone was excited, all from the executives of the association, that we'll get more promotion. And it did, because what he did, he lifted some of the sanctions. And what they did, they lifted the sanctions where they could, on the university level, they could recruit students at the universities to research on Qigong.
Wow.
Because prior to that, they were banned from doing that for 10 or 20 years because of political worry about things. But then they were able to recruit students on campus to do Qigong research. So now there's a lot of PhD students in China doing Qigong, and there's much more research being published all through the scientific and medical world about Qigong research coming from China. So it's really, in a way, some things are funny, but some things are good, you know?
Yeah, that can only do us all good, really. You know, we still have a lot of people in our midst who need to be convinced by the fact that it's scientifically proven before they'll take that journey.
Right.
So it's really fantastic that they're doing that. And I know whenever you go on the internet to look for traditional disciplines or traditional medicine, up comes China. They've done so much research on different aspects of Chinese medicine.
That's right. I know there's a lot of things said about China, but some things are really involved, because the talk at the time was about the conference was China's not going to be left behind from the executive committee. They're not going to be left behind now, because they're worried that foreign countries are doing more research in Qigong than they were. They don't want to be left behind about their own cultural type of things. So they want to kind of promote it out to the world. And I thought, oh, that's good. That's good in a way. You know? So, but in a way, they want to have control of themselves.
Yeah.
So, you know, they kind of tolerate some of us foreigners there for a while. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, I've realized we've run out of time, and I've got somebody coming into our meeting with a completely different agenda than peace and love and universal consciousness. It's been really interesting. I've learned a lot listening to you, which, you know, I feel like we haven't talked so much about the principles of eldership. Has been lucky enough to have you talk to us as an elder. So thank you so much, and thank you for all you do for all of us out there. And we do really hope that we can keep building this picture and bringing your knowledge and your viewpoint and your experience out there to a wider community. Please.
Yeah, thank you. I'm always honoured that you invite me to share some of the knowledge and the skills that have come my way. That's kind of that helps me to keep on the path and to keep to keep working in a way. Yeah.
And thank you so much for everybody for coming along and listening. Melanie had to leave. She gave her apologies by text there. So we'll be putting what you've said up on our YouTube very, very soon. We're managing to do that in a matter of days at the moment. And I'll send you the link, Simon, of course, to that. And really, really wonderful to hear the story. And I feel like we could talk for another 3 hours, actually.
No, easy.
On all this. So we'll
find another way. Stand up and do a bit of Qi Gong, you see. Otherwise, the energy a bit static, that's moving around. But I am coming down to your area, Jarvis Bay, next year. We do the Healing Sounds Qi Gong.
Oh, great.
In May, I think it is. Yeah, there you go.
Down at Sanctuary Point?
Yeah. St. George's Basin.
St. George's Basin. Okay, I'll be there.
Nice big room there. I think in mid-May there.
Great.
6-pound Leo Zut Chue. It's a really classic traditional practice. Really beautiful, yeah.
What a beautiful thing. And hopefully we'll be able to entice you over to what we're doing in Cambodia too, to share.
Yeah, sure. Love it over there.
Fantastic. Well, thank you everybody for coming along. So appreciated. And we will talk again tomorrow. Those of you that wish to join us, tomorrow, it's a good question. I can't remember who we have tomorrow, Tanya. Mute. Sorry, Tanya's on mute, but she's trying to tell us something very important. Yeah, I haven't actually got my diary in front of me to tell you who we have tomorrow, and she's mute. So there we are.
Jane Hall.
Oh, Jane. Okay, Jane, who's going to be talking to us about therapeutic touch. Which is,
looking forward to that.
Yeah, which of course, again, is based on that same piece, that same coming to center point, but is a form of touch that's been really utilized with allied health therapies in the hospital setting. So that's what makes it so very interesting. Anyway, thank you, Simon. Thank you very much again, and appreciate it. And we'll now stop the recording. Thanks everyone for joining us.